Welcome to CultFans. Today's guest is Dave Bresnahan.
How come there's squiggly lines under most of my words in Word?
It's hard to put everything he works on into a single reel to introduce him. He's fiddled in everything, and I do mean everything. Somewhere along the way, he became an award-winning journalist, author, and
Wife said that I better clean it or she wouldn't cook it. I hope I'm using the right kind of soap.
yes, actor, including the Outpost and Mythica series, as well as others which we'll cover today. But we have a hard time finding any film department he hasn't worked in yet. So stay tuned, find out, learn, and...
Tell him Crazy Eddie sent you.
Hi guys, welcome to CultFans. I'm Minerva. We normally have Stacy, but today we actually have Chris filling in. She is our new video editor on Squad and the birthday girl. Her birthday is going to be on the same day that the Outpost returns. We also have our regular Shay here with us, but of course, let's be real. Today we have Dave Bresnahan, an award-winning journalist, book author, broadcaster, radio talk show host, motivational speaker, actor, filmmaker, and he's turned in more than a few Aerostorm projects. How are you doing today, Dave?
It's good to be with you. Thanks for the invitation. I appreciate it.
Thank you for showing up. Okay.
All those things are just a product of I have never been able to decide what I want to do when I grow up.
So you decided to do all the things, the whole bucket list. I mean, you do have a huge list, and that didn't even really cover everything. So before we get down to the nitty-grit on the Outpost and Mythica, I hear you have a workshop for aspiring actors. Would you mind telling us a little about it, how it works, and what its purpose is?
Well, it's pretty informal. It's a free thing that I do. I don't teach acting classes per se. What I work with actors, aspiring actors on, is the fact that they are self-employed. When you're an actor, you have to run a business which is all about promoting yourself. You are a brand. And I teach them how to market and promote themselves, how to think of themselves as a business. And there's so much more to acting than just the performance itself. And it's been helpful to a lot of them. And I do it about once a month. And of course, we're here in Utah, so it's for the local Utah actors. And these are usually actors, they don't have an agent yet, and they haven't really gotten started. So I'm just trying to help them and understand what it's like to pursue this as a business.
I mean, that's invaluable. It's kind of like tripping through a maze, whether you're being an actor or even an editor. Getting a start under you and knowing how to market yourself is a huge thing. So, it's empowering for the people who need it. So thank you.
Well, it is, and we try to solve their problems for them. So they come to the workshops oftentimes with, here's my problems, here's what I'm trying to overcome, and most of the time that deals with day jobs. It's really hard. You have to have a day job. That's the reality. Mm-hmm. And then all of a sudden along comes the opportunity, and the day job won't let you take time off. And so we try to help them with finding ways to have some alternative sources of income so that they can be their own boss and truly be self-employed. And that's kind of been what I've done. By having other sources of income, I can take time off and go do what I want because I'm the boss.
That's great. And I mean, speaking of being the boss, even if you're not the boss, you're incredibly flexible. I imagine partially from teaching in this field. If you check out his IMDb for the people viewing, you've been in sound, casting, directing, writing. You've been a publicist, medic, makeup, stunts. I mean, you're really passionate about this, aren't you? And it just seems impossible to cover all at once. But what are your top favorite positions to function in and why?
Wow, that's really hard. Ultimately, I aspire to produce films. And I've got a number that are in the mill, that are in the development stage, films and TV shows. We've got 2 that are being developed through the pilot process right now, and several movies, at least 3, maybe 4 movies that are in the works. And so really I'm a producer. A producer is the guy that puts the team together, the guy that finds the money, the guy that finds the people who have the skills. I don't have all the skills to make a movie. I just simply find the people who do. So whatever I can't do, I find someone who can. And that's what I enjoy the most, is putting it together. It's the project manager is another name for a producer. And that's what I really enjoy. I do all those other things because I want to understand all the jobs. I want to understand what it's like to be the boom operator. I want to understand what it's like to run a camera and to do all those things. I don't aspire to do that all the time. I just want to know their skills, and then it helps me to appreciate all the aspects of the team that I need to put together when I produce.
I'd say we understand. I deeply understand that. Thank you. I'm not doing a huge production here, but I'm nothing without my team. But at the same time, we've all kind of shared wearing hats, so we understand each other's jobs, and that is critical to making even something this small run, much less a giant schema of everything. So,
Team is what it's all about, and that's part of what Aerostorm has been so successful with. They've been able to create a team environment of people who are passionate about what they do and do their best, and they let those people do their thing. They know that they bring each person on as part of a team, and each of them is contributing to the whole. And so there's nobody that's, the ego with the head that can't fit through the door. Everybody works together, and it's great to see.
it really is. That's one of the things we've come to admire following you and covering everyone's work out there. But we're going to cover Aerostorm and Outpost briefly here in a minute. But before we get that, you did just mention you have some projects coming up of your own. There's a documentary, I think, about Sandlot. You've got some comedy, dance. So while most of our viewers here are here for the Outpost, we find it's also a very dedicated viewer base that loves checking out other work. So what can you tell the audience about these other projects you have so far?
Well, this is the 25th anniversary of The Sandlot, which was filmed here in Utah. And I was part of a documentary that's been shown on the Fox Sports Network that's already come out. And that was about the making of the film. But we decided, let's put together a film that gives people a tour of all these iconic locations where the film took place, because they're all still here. And if people remember Wendy Peppercorn and the scene at the pool, that pool is still there. It looks the same today as it did 25 years ago. So we went around with a group of kids, and these are all aspiring actors that come to my workshop. And I have two separate, adults and kids. So the kids came with me. We went around and we had them put together their own favorite scenes from the film and reenact them. And so we went to each location, reenacted some scenes, and anybody that knows the film, we were at Vincent Drug, we were at Small's house and Benny's house, and we went to the ball field, the actual Sandlot. We went to the ball field where the rival team came and played and they beat them. All those locations, Vincent Drug, the iconic things that are seen in that film are all still there. So we went there, and at each spot we reenacted a scene. So hopefully people are going to like it. We'll have it out, and it will be available by the time of the World Series. Before this baseball season is over, you'll be seeing it.
I'm going to be keeping an eye out, and I'm like challenging everyone in the chat. Y'all better end up looking at it too. Now, well, I guess it's a two-part question for me is my last before I pass on here. What was the most difficult role you've ever played in film, and what is also like the strangest one? Sometimes they might be together, and why was it like that?
Well, the strangest one, I guess, would be my first. When I was in college, I signed up to be an extra in a horror film, and it was called Sasquatch. And I got there, and all of a sudden, this guy came over, pulled me aside, and said he was going to give me an extra $25 if I could be in this scene where the Sasquatch monster would rip off my head. And I thought, well, $25, I'm a college kid. Yeah, I'm going to take that. And so they plastered me with all kinds of prosthetics, and there was a fake jugular vein. So when this monster claw, it was just a claw on a stick, and they just moved it across my face. And when they did, the guy's pumping a thing that pumps the blood out, and it's spurting out. It was so fake looking, it was ridiculous. And they totally messed up. The claw actually caught the prosthetic and ripped it out. I had spent 5 hours being made up in this thing, and they ruined it in a matter of an instant and said, oh, we're going to come back and do it all again tomorrow. So I had to do this whole thing again the next day, and it was the most, I've never worn a prosthetic again, except when I did Mythica 4 and had to be in a prosthetic face to be an orc. And that's when I remembered, oh, crap, I've got to have this goo stuck to my skin, and I'll never do it again. That was it, last time ever.
I'm gonna let you know, you can't see it right now. I had that picture on call, so the audience just got to see the orc.
Great. Yeah. I was in Mythica 1, 2, and 3, and I died in 3. And I didn't want to stop. And my son was doing them too. He was an extra in the film. And so after talking with Aerostorm, they said, well, let's have you be an orc. That way nobody will recognize you that you're already dead. And so I got to be an orc for that reason, but I skipped on 5 because I wasn't going to get made up with one of those things again. It was awful.
I'm sorry, that just worked out perfectly. I'm like, I bet if I save this picture, it'll come up at some point. Now, that said, I'm going to end up passing you along. Usually we pass to Stacy. She couldn't be with us. I'm going to end up passing to Shay. And then later on, we're going to have Chris for her first time actually on air. We usually keep her in the back slaving on videos. But she's also a birthday girl. So I'm going to take my chance real quick to say happy birthday to Chris and then pass on to Shay for the next round of like Outpost and Aerostorm questions.
Yay. Hey.
Hi, Shay.
All right, first off, I gotta say, happy birthday, Chris. I'm kind of jealous of your specific day for your birthday. It's not exactly fair, but we'll deal. But hi, Dave.
Hi.
So I gotta admit, when I took a glance at your IMDb, it's so easy to miss all the levels you've worked on, and it's really impressive. But let's take a minute to touch on your work at Aerostorm. You're in 3 Outpost episodes and recently posted a pretty ominous image of yourself with an eye patch. Can we talk about? We can't talk spoilers, but what can you tell us about your presence in the past and anything fun about your current look?
So I'm a medic. I am an actual EMT, and so I have been filling in on the Outpost whenever their main EMT, who's a college kid, and had classes and so forth. So I would fill in for him and got to spend a lot of time on set as a result by being a medic. And in 1 and 3, I was playing this merchant. And you'll see me in some of the scenes in the tavern and that sort of thing. Well, in 10, we just thought it would be cool to have an eye patch. That's all. It's just, I'm always looking to be cool. And so I had the eye patch and I took my hood and put it up and everybody went, yeah, that's good. So that's all it took to become that change in the character. And I can't say much more, but watch for me. Things are going to get pretty intense.
Oh.
Pretty intense in number 10.
Episode
That's
10,
awesome.
keep an eye out.
We definitely will. We'll be looking for you, that's for sure. Now, you've had small roles in a lot of Aerostorm projects like The Christmas Dragon, Mythica, and Survivor. While we'd love to hear about those roles on screen, we brushed a bit over your off-screen work, and it doesn't escape us that you're listed as a producer or just all-around Swiss Army knife for them. What can you tell us about your relationship with and working for Aerostorm?
Well, quite frankly, until the Outpost, Aerostorm has depended on fan support, and Kickstarter has been a big part of that. And so, gosh, I don't even remember when it started. I might have been Mythica 1, maybe before. I started doing the publicity for Aerostorm, and as their I'm a former reporter. I worked outside of Boston and did newspapers, then radio and TV, owned my own radio station. So I pretty well know my way around publicity. And I helped them with their PR work. And that led to advice and help in a number of different ways that help to make that successful on Kickstarter. It's really hard to have a successful Kickstarter campaign, especially at the high dollar level that they were looking for. And what I did helped them cross the line and, in fact, go beyond their goal. And so I did that again and again and again and kept doing that. So they granted me associate producer status, not just for that, but for the all-around help that I was giving to make that happen. And like I said, it's a labor of love. Um, that was something that didn't necessarily mean a paycheck. That was just simply we all contributed to making a successful project that has led to where we are now with the Outpost.
Well, that's wonderful. Like I've seen that, so like everybody we've spoken to has had huge passion and just drive for the success of Aerostorm, and I could definitely see that you're definitely a part of that team. But really
They
quick,
represent the best of independent filmmaking. You know, it's just really grassroots. We come together with talented people and make it happen. And if there's a problem, they overcome it and keep going. And that's what you have to admire about Aerostorm.
absolutely. And but you had mentioned before that you're a set medic, and an EMT. There's got to be some history to that. So can we touch on that for a second?
Well, I just left. You can see I'm wearing my shirt.
Yeah.
I've been at a Mountain Man rendezvous all day, and I will be back there tonight and tomorrow. I volunteer as a medic at events, marathon races, and events and activities in my community. That's kind of what I do to pay back. But I've been an EMT for a gazillion years, and it kind of became one accidentally when I was a reporter. I would go to the scene with my scanner chasing cops and fire and all that, and the cop would say, put down that damn camera and get over here, and you help me with this guy and that guy, and I started going to the fire station, taking their classes, and became an EMT over time. So that is kept with me. I've never done it as my profession, but I did create a company, and my company teaches everything from first aid CPR classes to health and safety classes that construction companies and places where there's hazardous work environment, OSHA requires those employees to have all kinds of health training. So I have EMTs work for me and go and train those, and I train some of them myself. And so that's what I do. But then when you bring film into it, it's kind of nice when you have a low budget independent film organization that says, gee, Dave, would you mind wearing two hats when you're on set today and be our medic? So that's kind of how I end up being a medic on film sets. Whenever there's stunts, you need to have a medic, but then even on any day, somebody could trip and fall and get hurt. So having a medic on set is always wise.
Absolutely, and that I agree, especially when you've got the faces of the team actually doing the stunts too. So with as many shoes as you wear and hats or shoes that you fill and hats that you wear, sorry, how much of that is just good old fashioned dedication, and how much of it is set as how much is self-taught?
Self-taught. Well, experience goes a long way. And so I have far more experience now than I did back when I was in college, being that extra in a horror film, having my jugular vein ripped out. And I'm always trying to learn. I mean, you never stop learning. And so every set that I can go on and learn, I will do that. There's been films that I've gone to be an extra at that film for one and only reason, and that's because I wanted to watch a particular director in action, or I wanted to, there was one, for instance, where they were doing blood splatter, and I wanted to see how they did that because I'm trying to learn. I want to learn about things that I've never seen or done before, and so when there's an opportunity, I try to take advantage of it.
Absolutely. It's still like I have a huge admiration for you, just because of just how dedicated you are to the film industry. It's really interesting to hear about your experiences. But outside of film, you also write. So what can you tell us about your various books and your motivations in them, your journalism, and where your awards crop up?
Well, first off, let me just say that there was a time in my life as a talk show host when I was that controversial right-wing guy, and I have since repented. I don't do those shows anymore. And the books that I was marketing at that, I made a lot of money. Bottom line, I made a lot of money off of Bill Clinton. And if he had stayed president, I would have made a lot more money. But my book, Cover Up, The Art and Science of Political Deception, and then my book, How to Get Caught with Your Pants Down and Still Get Elected President. Those two books were bestsellers and made me a lot of money on the talk show circuit. I was a guest everywhere. But I learned how to de-stress my life. And now today I'm as non-political as can be. If you follow me on Facebook or Twitter, you'll never see me commenting on political stuff. I ignore it. I have nothing to do with it. And in fact, I was elected to public office. I have no aspirations to be a politician. And boy, were my eyes opened, and I just said, I'm out of here. So I tell everybody I've repented of those days. The book that I am very proud of that is available right now on Amazon is 9/11 First Responders at Ground Zero. And that book came out a month after the attack. I wrote that really fast. I got busy within just a couple of days of the attack, interviewing first responders and compiling their stories, putting it in that book so that people would know what it was like to be at Ground Zero, to be there as a rescue worker trying to help save lives. And it pretty much tells the 24 hours after it happened. It tells about the very last person who came out of the tower, the North Tower, and the tower literally collapsed behind him as he came out the door. It tells the story of all the rescue workers that were then working round the clock with no rest, no food, nothing, just to save lives. And it gives a perspective that many people don't have because the only things they know about are what they saw on TV that day. And there have been movies and there have been some things, but nothing that really gives you that perspective from the point of view of the rescue workers. So that book, we just gave it away, sorry, during the 9/11 anniversary. It was the 17th year, if you can imagine. And then now it's back to its regular price. But if you want to look it up on Amazon, I think you'll find it's a great book that you should have in your library. There's an ebook version, and there's a paperback version that's black and white pictures and a color picture version. And it's called 9/11 First Responders at Ground Zero.
I will cut in real quick. We actually advertised it during your free giveaway, but if people go ahead and browse the blog on CultFans, they can find a link to the Amazon sale listed under, it'll be his name and the title of his book, so you can just go to CultFans and navigate that way.
Thank you.
Absolutely, and I'm definitely gonna check it out because it definitely piques my interest. So,
and I might say that we don't have a deal. That's one of the films that we're working on. 3 years from now is the 20th anniversary, and our goal is to have that book made into a film and come out on the 20th anniversary. So we're working on that.
Well, we're definitely on board to support you 100%, Dave.
Hit us up if you get news like that. That is a landmark that our entire nation remembers.
Absolutely. But I think it's time to give our new editor and interviewer a shot and wish her another happy birthday and give her a chance to ask you a few questions before she pulls questions from the audience. Chris?
Hi. Thanks, guys, again for the millionth birthday wish. So, and thanks for coming, Dave. We really do appreciate having you on. Real quick, before we do get to our audience questions, there's a few other works that haven't really touched on that much. For example, I see you worked on Angie Mac, which our previous guest, Trent Taylor, also did. Was it a similar casting call? Is there overlap in the studios? Is it that the
Oh, it's very simple. Andy Mac is a really silly Disney show that I haven't watched, and I haven't even seen myself in it. It isn't something I would seek to do, but I believe the director had been the first or second AD on the movie Saints and Soldiers 3. And I had spent, maybe 12, 14 days on set with that film and helped him with, it's interesting, that movie has a lot of dead bodies, soldiers that die on both sides, Americans and Germans. And most of those are kids that I got from either my baseball team or my Boy Scouts who came in, dressed up, and were made dead bodies on the ground. So he always said, I appreciate you. And I said, well, someday put me in a film. And he was doing that show, and he says, hey, come on over, and I can have you be this shopper come through. So anyway, I was doing it more or less as a favor for him because he was trying to do a favor for me, and I didn't want to make him feel bad if I didn't do it. It was one of those things. So that's all that was. It's not a really big deal.
Oh, no. Well, it sounds like I'm sure the kids had a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Play dead. No.
Yeah.
Exactly. It was really funny. We had all these kids in military uniforms, and they had real rifles. Those were M1 rifles, and I forget what the rifle was the Germans used. They had the real thing, and we put blanks in those rifles, and they shot them when we were filming. When we weren't filming, there was no ammo in the rifles, but kids are bored. They can't sit around doing nothing. My son was one of them, and they just can't sit still. So they started playing Army in the woods and pretending they were shooting each other just to stay busy. They had their own little war going on. It was really hilarious.
It sounds a lot like something my cousins and me and my sisters would do, and our friends. Yeah, kids really can't stay still, and it sounds like they had fun even when you guys weren't filming.
Well, none of them got paid, so we had to let them do something. So
some sort of compensation.
Yeah.
And you also have a few things in pre-production right now. The Chronic Adventure Story, Famine, both which have eye-catching titles. They do sound like a lot of fun, honestly. Can you tell us about that and about any other recently released works?
The Chronic Adventure Story is one that's being made back in Massachusetts, which is where I come from. I grew up in Massachusetts, and my family are still there, so I travel back and forth very frequently. And when I do, my agent there looks for opportunities for me to film, mostly because I've said, help me make use of my time while I'm there. Chronic Adventure Story is one of those new experimental, I don't know if the director wants to call it experimental. It's a film in which you get to pick different outcomes. So I believe there's 26 different versions of the show, and it's actually a TV show. It'll be a series. And it's totally changeable by you watching. And it's not one of those where you pick a different scene as it's going along. You pick the version of the show you want to watch from the start. When it's over, you can pick a different version. And totally new concept. And I think it's going to be well received. It's got a great script, and I can't wait to do it.
Yeah, and it sounds like a lot of fun. I grew up on the Choose Your Own Adventure books.
Yeah, it's based on that. Yeah.
Yeah, so it sounds like I'd really enjoy it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. You'll like this.
Oh, I'm excited. Can't wait to see it, definitely. And we'll definitely have to take a look into those. Oh, and also, one thing I just wanted to mention, the pilot for Enter the Fringe in the Acid Rain series from last year.
Well, Enter the Fringe is actually one episode of the Acid Rain series, and it's a post-apocalyptic thing. It is quite different than your typical post-apocalyptic thing, which I really liked about it. I have a role as a guy called Nun, and he is running a type of scavenging, smuggling kind of operation. The end of the world came, and outside of the city that we live in, there's a world of devastation. And we use the West Desert of Utah, the Salt Flats kind of thing, that's pretty devastated. And so we have people who go out in search of remnants of the past civilization, because nothing's being manufactured. If you need something, you have to go find it. So it's an interesting concept, and then they find something that nobody knew about, and there's stuff going on that nobody, and there's technology happening, and all of a sudden things change. My character is kind of a tough boss running this operation, but he's not a bad guy. It's one of those, it takes an episode or two for you to figure out, is he a good guy? Is he a bad guy? What is he? And we're hopeful that this is going to get picked up. It's a great show. You can watch Enter the Fringe on Amazon. So if you go to Amazon, even if you don't have Prime, you can watch it. You'll just have to see an ad or two. But Enter the Fringe is what you put in your search bar, and it will come up. Take a look. It's only, I think, 10 or 12 minutes long.
Awesome. It sounds really interesting. We'll definitely have to keep an eye out for that. I'll actually go and watch that now, since you mentioned it's on Amazon. You've definitely given us a lot, like a list of works that we want to check out here. And we definitely want to encourage everyone in the audience here to check them out. Again, they sound so fascinating. But anyway, speaking about the audience, we have some questions here.
Oh, great.
I'm going to pull up a good one here for you. Let's see. So Angie wants to know, have you ever had to use your medic skills on set, and what was the worst injury that you've treated?
Without getting anybody sued for mentioning it.
Right, yes.
Well, yeah, so that's a major deal. There's a thing called the HIPAA laws, and I can't reveal anybody's medical condition.
Oh, yeah.
I can't talk to you about who or what. I can tell you that there were no major injuries on the Outpost. Some cuts and scrapes and that sort of thing is about all there were, which is kind of amazing. There's pretty cool stunts that take place, and so that was pretty good. The worst that has happened goes back quite a few years, and I can't mention the name of the production because then you could track it down, sort of thing. But the worst thing that happened was that somebody fell. They fell backwards, and so they reached with their hand to kind of catch themselves as they hit the ground. And they came over to me and they said, "Oh, I heard a crack and it hurts." And they were just holding their arm, and I knew right away, well, there must be a break. But there was no deformity or anything, so we just had them x-rayed, and sure enough, there had been a small hairline fracture in their arm. And that literally is the worst that I have seen on a film set. And since I tell everybody I'm 39, I really can't tell you how long ago that was, or you'll figure out I'm lying.
Gotcha. No, understandable. Thank you for trying to be as legally safe as possible.
Yeah.
Me and Angie both appreciate that. So
do I. My name is all over this
and of course, Ben appreciates it too. So I have another question here from Janine. Do people have to send in a whole script, or can it just be like a fleshed out, detailed plot or synopsis? And a follow-up to that is there a book or novel that you would love to be turned into a movie?
You know, your audio faded out a little bit.
Oh,
so please, ask me again.
Sure.
I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. So Janine wanted to ask, I'll just re-ask the whole thing here. Janine asks, do people have to send in a whole fleshed out script for a film? Can it just be a detailed plot or synopsis? And
Okay, so you meaning
yeah.
send a script for a film that you
Yes.
want me to make? Or that you
Right.
want me to be a role at? What's the purpose of the script?
I think,
I think she means general production. Like,
yeah.
we get a lot of questions because Aerostorm is an independent studio, um, and they've done a lot of pickup work on a production level. What's the standard? Like, do they want to know? Do you have to send a full script, or can you even just pitch an idea?
Okay, so in general, not speaking for Aerostorm, but speaking for any producer that you want to give them a script and have them look at it, it's not going to work. I'll give you an example. There's somebody that I use. They're in LA, and they've received 3 of my scripts, and they've said, yes, we want to make these. So we're working with them, and they're in the development process. I can send them a script because they know me, and they already know the quality that they're going to get. So if it's coming from Dave Bresnahan, they'll say, yeah, we'll take a look at that. But if it's coming from someone they don't know, I can tell you by actually having been there and seen, the secretary receives 20 or 30 scripts in the mail every single day at that particular company, and they go right into the basket. They don't even get opened. They never even look at them. So the first thing I can tell you is, if you've got a good script, you either need an agent to represent you. You need to go to the American Film Market thing, which is coming up here this fall. It's in San Diego. Where is that? Yeah, San Diego. It's in California. I hate going there. So you need to take it in person, where you can meet face to face with people at some kind of meeting or an event, and that will help you to be seen and talk face to face. My first script that I was pitching, I pitched at the Sundance Film Festival about 3 years ago, and literally just networked. And I had been doing that for 10 years. And finally, about 3 years ago, somebody I networked with said, I love this. I've got a baseball film that I'm going to make. And that was the first film that went to this guy who's out in California. And he has since looked at 2 more. And so that came about because I networked, met with him face to face, talked with him. But don't ever send anybody an unsolicited script. It will not even get opened, I guarantee you.
Awesome. Thank you. It's actually, yeah, that's great advice.
It's helpful.
It's very helpful. Yeah, because you don't want stuff that you've worked on just end up in a bin.
Yeah.
And then I have here a follow-up question actually to that was, is there a novel or book that you'd like to have turned into a movie?
Well, my book, 9/11, that I talked about earlier. So we're hopeful that that's going to be turned into a movie. And as far as other books, I mean, there are so many. And there's so many times when I read a book and I think, wow, that'd be a great film. You can only put so many eggs in a basket. Right now, my basket has the ones that I'm passionate about because I wrote them. So that's kind of where I'm at. But in terms of books that could be made into a film, there are so many. And there's so many books that would make a great film, and they'll never be made into a film because most book authors are lousy at writing a film script. I am one of those book authors who's not adept at writing a script. I can read a script and tell you if it's good or bad, but I'm not good at writing one. So remember I talked about forming a team? My team includes writers. So I provide the concept material and the guidance, and they write, I review, change this, change that, and we go back and forth as a team, and then we have the best results. And I think one of the biggest things that many filmmakers fail to do is admitting they can't do it all. and they're not the best. And you need to go out and get the best you can for each job, and that'll make your project the best.
I'd actually like to step in here because it sounds like we have an aspiring filmmaker in the audience. I'm just going to say the difference between writing a novel and writing a script. It's any habit you've developed writing a book, like break your fingers and undo it. It's you can't give direction to the director. You have to learn shorthand. All of those beautiful descriptions need to be pitched in a line. So you can be a fantastic author like Dave and still be like, you know what? I have my weaknesses and I understand them.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it seems like the common theme that we've been getting from everyone that we've talked to from Aerostorm is teamwork, teamwork, teamwork. As they say at my job, teamwork makes the dream work. So
yeah,
I do like seeing this consistent theme with you guys. I love it. It's great. I have one last question. I think it's going to be our last one here from Ghost Plagueling. She made note that you've done a lot of things, and she would like to know if there's anything new that you would want to do that you haven't done yet.
Well, I am actually working on that. There's a pilot that we're making. It's a kids show. I've never done a kids show. It's a comedy. I've done some comedy work, and you can see some of that online if you go looking for it. But I've never done a kids show with a whole bunch of kids. And when we made the documentary about Sandlot, these kids were just so much fun to work with. And I just started brainstorming with some of my crew, and we came up with the concept of having a kids, it's kind of a variety comedy show, sketch comedy, lip syncs, some dancing. We just filmed the other day. This is so cool. You know, the opening of Guardians of the Galaxy 2, and you see little Groot, and little Groot is dancing while this horrific battle is going on with all these aliens, and Groot's just having a good time dancing to the music. Well, we got a segment on the show that's going to be called Dancing with Groot, and we've got these little kids. We put them on a green screen, and they're watching Groot, and they're dancing with him, and we're going to merge them all together into that scene. So that you'll see them dancing with Groot. Now we're trying to find out how we can actually do that legally and show it. But this is a fun show. It is so cool. And the kids are doing all kinds of cool comedy sketches, and I think you're going to love it. We've got 2 different networks that have simply said, make a pilot, show it to us, and we really want it to come out good because it sounds great. They love the concept. Now they just want to see that we can turn it out. So we're going to be making that starting roughly the end of October, November, and we hope to turn out the pilot by the first of the year.
Well, that sounds awesome, actually. We really do hope that takes off, because I know that I'm looking forward to watching that, and I don't even have any kids in my general vicinity. But I know I can pass along that information to my sister and my 6 nieces and nephews, and I'm sure they'll have a blast with that.
We hope it'll be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I hope it gets picked up. Yeah. We have time for any more questions.
I'd say go on. We don't want to eat up all of his day and night.
Thank you.
Okay. But I will say it has been a great time, Dave. Thanks for coming to talk to us today. We really enjoyed it. Sounds like the audience did. And you actually imparted a lot of wisdom that, like, we haven't even gotten the chance to hear. Even we've had Jennifer on, and she was a blast, but you actually explained to the people who want to pursue this how they can get their treads under them. So thank you.
Great. Glad to do it. Maybe sometime we can do another one where we do it like a workshop that I do, and we can just talk about the art and science and business of being an actor or a crew member and getting into film, and what you need to do and how you can make it work and be successful. that's the kind of thing we do in the workshop. Be happy to do something like that in a future podcast.
I would gladly host that. You have our email, so just hit us up with a date and time that's good for you, and we will market that to death for you.
Okay.
We'll be your publicist. But I do want to say, first of all, to the audience, thanks to everyone for watching Cult Fans. Thanks for following, Dave. If you want to check out more of his stuff, check the description below the video here. There's a whole bunch of things down here with links. Also, everyone better be wishing Chris like more happy birthdays than she can stand.
Absolutely.
I'm gonna kind of take my cut here for a second here. Anything else anyone here wants to say before we end up closing out?
I am 100% game for a workshop. Just so you know.
Chris, don't hide.
I'm not hiding. I just wanted to make sure Shay got her chance to say something. And I am definitely down for a workshop with that for that too. I definitely want to echo Ben here and thank you for coming on. Because we really have enjoyed having all of you guys from Aerostorm come on. And thank you again for the birthday wishes, guys. Keep them coming. We got till Tuesday.
Okay. Speaking of Tuesday, the Outpost returns this week after a week off, and episode 9 and then the next week 10 will be airing. We return to normal schedule here on the 25th. Happy birthday. And we're going to have more guests from Outpost coming up and abroad. More cult fandom news is only a few clicks away. But just bear with us here, and we're going to, on our way out, play the teaser for those of you who might not be watching the Outpost yet. But real quick, bye, guys.
Bye. Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Well, we are frozen on air. Huh, so much for that.
Oops-a-daisy.
Watch, they're probably still hearing me be like, and we're frozen.